It is 10 a.m. in Moscow on this Sunday. We have breaking news on this network, RT International. The Russian Defense Ministry has confirmed it has found debris from a plane that crashed into the Black Sea. The military plane disappeared from radars shortly after taking off from Sochi. And the ministry is saying there were 83 passengers and 8 crew members on board. RT's Emily Sue in the studio with us now for the updates on this breaking news story here. Emily, you've been giving us all the latest tidbits of information here now. Can you update us on the latest? What do you know?
Well, Rory, in the past hour, the Ministry of Defense, they have confirmed that they found wreckage of the plane, parts of the main body of the aircraft, just 1.5 kilometers off the coast of Sochi at a depth of about 50 to 70 meters deep. So we now know for sure that the plane has indeed crashed and has crashed quite close to the coast of Sochi. We also know that an investigative committee has been set up and they have launched a criminal investigation into this matter. And a quote from the investigative committee, they said there's a quote, failure to comply with the rules of flight security and preparation. And in fact, we can now take a listen to what the Defense Ministry spokesperson, he had to say here.
On board were 83 passengers and 8 crew members. All Defense Ministry and other federal ministry rescue services are engaged in the search. The Tu-154 was carrying Russian military servicemen, the Alexandrov Orchestra, which was going to perform during New Year celebrations at our Khmeimim airbase, and 9 Russian journalists.
Yeah, in fact, that was Igor Konashenkov. He's actually the guy in charge of the Khmeimim airbase. I had a good chat with him when I was down in Syria a few months ago. We understand the debris field has been found, and you were saying earlier that pieces of the main fuselage have also been seen of this Tupolev 154. If you're seeing large pieces of the fuselage on the surface of the Black Sea, that would suggest a high-speed impact, perhaps.
Well, I think it's too early to skip to any conclusion now, as this is just broken. Information is still coming in. But in fact, you're right. I mean, we're seeing wreckage and parts of the main body found in the sea.
It would suggest that the plane has had some sort of hard impact on the surface of the Black Sea, prompting main pieces of the fuselage to come off. So the debris field, though, it's getting larger. We understand, originally seen at about 1.5 kilometers off the coast of the Black Sea resort of Sochi. Now it's about 3 kilometers moving along. We understand that some personal items of the passengers also being seen among the debris field. The plane itself, though, it's a normal plane. It's a workhorse plane. It's been in operation since the mid-60s, but it does have a bit of a dodgy track record. Emily, we understand, 39 fatal incidents with this type of plane just since 1968. How many passengers were on board this plane? Well,
this plane has the capacity to carry 180 passengers, but there were only 91 passengers on board, meaning it's only half full, really. And of those 91 passengers, as we're just saying, that we know 83 were passengers, 8 were crew, and 9 of them were journalists. And now, according to the Russian Defense Ministry, I think some new information that we're seeing now, that most of the passengers were members of the Alexandrov Red Army Choir, and it is the official choir of the Russian Army. And we understand that they were traveling to Russia's Khmeimim Air Base in Syria's province of Latakia to perform for soldiers stationed there at New Year. Now, the Alexandrov Ensemble was founded in 1928, and it consists of a male choir and an orchestra, has over 2,000 songs in its repertoire and performs all over the world, including military facilities. It has performed at Khmeimim Air Base several times already, Rory.
We're discussing the breaking news here on RT International, the loss of the Tupolev 154 in the early hours of this Sunday morning, an ultimate workhorse of the Russian aviation industry since its launch in, the mid-1960s. It's a pretty standard airliner. We're going to bring up the stats for you here on the screen here. Nothing too startling about the numbers, no major surprises there. The length, the height, the maximum capacity. We understand there were 92 people on board this aircraft that has now been located about 50 plus meters under the water in the Black Sea. But right there on the bottom right of your screen, that's the most important number you should take away from these stats. 39 fatal incidents since 1968. And we discussed this latest accident with Jerry Sohatman, an independent aviation consultant. Now, here's what he has to say about what he thinks may have contributed to the potential cause of this crash.
The mountains around Sochi are quite high, so it would bring some mechanical turbulence. But I am more concerned about the fact that if they took off towards the mountains instead of towards the sea, they would have to make some very steep, they would have to make some turns. Now, that's why I mentioned possibility of crew error earlier, because when you're departing at night, you're going towards the mountains and you make turns, you turn out towards the sea, you don't see anything. So there is a possibility of what we call disorientation.
All right, let's take you back a little bit here and talk to you about some of the most prominent Tu-154 crashes in recent years. In 2006, a Russian airplane crashed over Ukraine, killing all 160 on board. The crew made a critical mistake. It's called a critical mistake while trying to avoid a storm. 3 years later, an Iranian airliner crashed in the north of the country. All 168 on board died. A faulty engine ID'd as the cause of that. And in 2010, a plane carrying Poland's president and other top government and military officials crashed in Russia's Smolensk region while trying to land. We understand that there were major issues of poor visibility. There was a heavy fog around that airport at the time. Now, a special commission has taken off from Moscow for Sochi with the Russian Minister of Defense on board. He will guide the ongoing search operation. The rescue president's spokesperson said they are in constant contact with Vladimir Putin via the phone. We'll bring you all the latest details on this breaking news as we get them on RT International.